Hello everyone, welcome to video 8 in our mini course on the Church and Islam. In this week 3 of the course, we are considering the theological relationship between Christianity and Islam. In the previous video, we discussed the question of God, and I advanced some arguments for the conclusion that Christians and Muslims do worship the same God. That seems to be the teaching of the Catholic Church, especially in recent documents. I'd like in this video to speak about the relationship between God and humanity and look at how both Islam and Christianity consider the path towards reconciliation or salvation with God. I'm going to go ahead and share a PowerPoint as usual and just quickly introduce this topic. I'll do so in 2 steps. First, introduce sin and salvation in Islam, how those things are thought of, and then how the cross is thought of in the Quran and in later Islamic tradition and its place in Christianity. And that image there is a photo I took of an early morning prayer in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, which of course is the site of both the crucifixion or Golgotha and the resurrection, the site of the tomb of Christ. In fact, they're praying right in front of the tomb of Christ. Okay, so let's start with the question of sin in Islam. I think it's important to recognize the larger context of the relationship between God and humanity in the Quran, which is one of a relationship between Lord and servant. Many Muslims take on names that have the word Abd in it. So Abdullah, Abd al-Jabbar, Abd al-Nur, some sort of reference to God is the master and I am the servant of God. That's literally what Abdullah means. Here we have a text from a scholar known as Toshihiko Uzutsu, who writes that in the Quran, humans are called towards this disposition of humbleness, modesty, absolute obedience, right? So this is the path towards righteousness is recognizing that. But humans struggle, according to the Quran, because there's an element of the human known as the nafs in Arabic, N-A-F-S, which leads a human to be inclined towards evil. There we have a quotation from Quran, chapter 12, verse 53, which says, this nafs, this carnal soul, as it might be translated, always commands humans to do evil things. And so we find that there's a challenge for Muslims who seek to be obedient to God because they have this element within them which leads them towards evil. And the devil also plays a role in that in encouraging this inclination, encouraging humans to turn towards evil. What is the solution to the inclination or the temptation to evil, or what is the solution to sin? Well, in Christianity, it's very clear. The heart of the teaching is that God has won our salvation. God, through the actions of Christ, through his suffering, death, and resurrection, all of which was part of the divine plan, God has saved us. We do not save ourselves. Salvation is a gift given to us by our loving and merciful God. And so therefore we might notice how in 1 Corinthians, Paul writes about the message of the cross, that it is not defeat of Christ. It is itself the road to salvation. It is the power of God. In Islam, the complicating factor is that most Muslims would say on the basis of Quran chapter 4, verse 157, that Jesus did not die. He was not crucified. So there is no redemptive or atoning property in the cross. So you can read that quotation there. And I'd also comment that later Muslim scholars would say that what actually happened on the day of crucifixion is someone else, maybe a disciple of Christ, as you see in this tradition, received the image of Jesus, was transformed to look like Jesus, and that someone else was crucified in Jesus's place. We have another tradition here from a scholar named Abd al-Jabbar, writing in 1025, who gives a different version. It wasn't the transformation of someone, but it was Judas Iscariot who kissed the wrong person, and that other person was taken in the place of Christ and crucified. In both cases, it wasn't Jesus who was crucified. In a sense, for the Quran and definitely later Islamic tradition, the cross becomes unimportant because it is not God who wins salvation through the saving act, but instead humans who are responsible for their own sins and their own virtues. Quran 4:111, whoever earns a sin earns it against himself. Therefore, the scholar Anthony Johns writes about the path to salvation in Islam. One needs guidance, not redemption, and that guidance comes through the prophets. So that was a very simple introduction to sin and salvation. We have one more video left to go, rather. Thank you for your patience with me, and I look forward to seeing you soon.